Okay guys, we're talking about paying off debt tonight or investing. This is going to be a big topic. Alright, so let's get started. This title alone does not necessarily mean one or the other. I do pay off debt or invest because that's usually the question. Like somebody asked me like, hey, should I pay off debt with what I have, or should I go ahead and invest that money? That's not necessarily even like the two options that you have. You could have multiple options. You could do pay off debt solely, you could invest, or you could do a combination approach. So there's multiple ways to attack this. But let's talk about the tools that you actually need to pay off debt or invest, so you can make or assess the situation. And so the very first tool, guys, is a compound interest calculator. Very simple. You can Google this. You can download one on your phone. You can go to the Apple store and probably type in compound, and I use a compound interest calculator myself there. The second piece of this is, well, I'm going to back up. The compound interest calculator, for anybody that does not understand what this is basically assessing assuming you're putting a few assumptions in from an investment standpoint, what your contribution into your investments will be at some sort specific time in the future. So that's compound interest calculator. The second piece of this is the amortization schedule. So an amortization schedule is simply all your liabilities in your balance sheet. For you guys that have followed me for a long time, you understand when I say balance sheet, you understand when I say liabilities, and you understand when I say amortization schedule. For those that don't, all this is taking your debts, outstanding debts, and listing it out with principal and interest in exact payoff date to the penny. Like, it's very simple. It's a very simple tool. I have this tool. I have both of these tools available if you guys need that. But again, you can Google this. You can figure it out yourself as well. The third option the third tool that you need is actually understanding your true cash flow. So CF stands for cash flow. And so most people don't get to this point. They don't have this tool available to them because they don't know how to budget, and they're not doing things appropriately, and they're making things up on the fly. So a lot of times I'll talk to a student or a client and I'll say, hey, when are you going to pay off that debt? And they'll say, probably over like the next 3 years. That's not a good answer. That's a horrible answer. You should know the exact penny, the exact date, and that does not mean extra craziness or anything like that, or it takes 1 million extra hours per month to figure that out. It's just using an amortization schedule will show you that exact date in time. So it's really simple. But understanding your true cash flow comes through your budget. So if you don't have a budget and you're not budgeting appropriately, you're not going to know that number. So let's quickly go through the zero-based budgeting formula that's very important for this exercise. So number one is fixed income. These are items like that you would think of typically, your salary, your hourly wage, pretty simple stuff, right? We all know what our fixed income is. Our second thing is variable income. So our variable income is going to be a little different. Bonuses, commissions, side hustles for the most part, but we have somewhat of an idea. We can always do a look back analysis to kind of assess where this is, if it's a little bit of a fluctuation and stuff like that, and it's not similar, the same every single month. The third option, or third piece here, the component would be fixed and variable expenses, kind of a lump sum together. So this is things like mortgage, phone, groceries, all those kind of things. And guys, by the way, I did an entire whiteboard Wednesday presentation on this exact topic. So if you guys want to get really, really good detail on that topic in particular, just go back to my reels and you can check them all out. We do this every single Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Feel free, guys, to put questions in the question mark box as you guys are listening. We're going to flip this camera around here soon, and I'm going to talk to you guys, answer questions, and all that kind of stuff. So feel free to put those in the comment box. So the other piece is one-time expense. So one-time expense are things like weddings, cars, those big-ticket items that kind of come up randomly, as people refer to them as, but they're really pretty expected. Like, we know when these are coming. We just don't plan appropriately. We use sinking funds for this. Again, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail of those, of how to zero-based budget. Ultimately, you would have a number, an X figure down here, and that would be the cash flow of understanding your true cash flow. Now, if you guys zero-based budget with me, and you guys know what I'm talking about here, you would then take that number and you would apply it up here, and ultimately that equation would get you to zero. That's the whole point of zero-based budgeting. Now, when you first start budgeting, you don't know exactly what you have available, so you obviously let it flow down outside of the expenses that you actually need to pay for outside of your income to see what's left over. That would be called your savings rate. So you could do that bottom number divided by your total income, and you could figure out how much you're actually saving as a percentage of your income. That solely, guys, is probably your best indicator or metric of long-term financial success. Savings rate, the most basic piece of it all. If you aren't at $500,000 net worth or even next to $1 million yet, savings rate should be your number one focus, not investment return, not the best next to big investment or trading or anything like that. Savings rate. See what you can actually take home from your pay. That then can be obviously put into good investments. Okay, so once we have an understanding of true cash flow, we kind of understand where we sit. Now the question becomes, do we pay off debt or invest? Assuming that you have both options, right? And so every situation is going to be different. I'm going to explain an example, and I'm also going to explain my situation and specifically what we did in particular. So the first example, guys, over here on the far left, we're going to expect that somebody's going to go through that formula over there, and they're going to come to the conclusion they have $1,000 remaining. Okay, they have $1,000 remaining. Let's just say they have taken care of a little, the basic investing and stuff like that. So they're investing a little bit for retirement. My rule of thumb of 15%. Let's just say they have an extra $1,000 on top of that. Okay, so maybe they're 28, 29, 30 years old. They're pretty well on their way to retirement. They have that all set up, the 15% gross income. But they had this big student loan debt of $50,000. So $50,000 here, this student loan debt at a 5.175% interest rate. And they're sitting here thinking, all right, this is a minimum payment of $534 for 10 years. That's a long time. Like, I don't really want to deal with a $534 payment for that long of a time. Now, this is obviously on a whiteboard, guys. I wish I could present this through a Zoom. Because I could show you the actual calculations I did to get up here into this board. But I'm using these tools to make these assumptions down here. I'll explain it, but it might make more sense like if we were on a Zoom, obviously. But that's obviously part of Budget Dog Academy, all that kind of stuff in detail, and you guys get these tools as well. But let's assume 10 years is time frame. We're debating, should we invest this $1,000 or should we pay off debt? Here's where you want to start. You want to see the extreme of both sides, because if we don't know, if we go straight to the middle, we don't really know what's going to happen, or we don't really get a good true picture of the spectrum that we can meet. Right? We want to understand the spectrum from start to finish of what's the worst case scenario and what's the best case scenario. So the very first thing we're going to do is have some assumptions. This becomes a major problem when you're calculating opportunity cost, because the reality is your assumptions are probably going to be wrong unless you have like a 20, 30, 40 year time period. Because the first thing is, one, the 10-year time frame for this, if you're calculating the opportunity cost of paying off debt or investing, is going to be only for 10 years. If you extend upon that 10 years, that number is going to widen and get bigger with your assumptions, obviously, because time is the biggest wealth building factor. I talk about that often. So that's a huge concern. I put unknowns, is are you going to use the time frame that you're in debt to compare the situations, which we will below, or are you going to extend it upon the 10 years to see the real opportunity cost of that decision? Now, another thing becomes is like, okay, are we going to do this until we're in the grave at 90 years old? Like, does that really make sense to calculate an opportunity cost past retirement and past all those kind of things? Probably not. I typically would stay within a good. For me personally, I did it out until 50 years old. I'm 30, so I did it like 20 years to calculate my opportunity cost lost or projected opportunity cost lost. Which is the other part, and a huge piece of this whole entire puzzle is your assumed return of investment. Nobody knows. This year, it's about negative 23% last time I checked, but 8% is a pretty commonly used figure. 10% obviously over the entirety of the investment time frame 1926 to 2022 is about 10% if you're in the S&P 500 solely and your dollar cost averaging. But over a 1 year, a 3 year, a 5 year, maybe even a decade of 10 years here in this situation, can we really bank that we're going to get an 8% return? That's a huge guess. And so this is where real life comes into play. we all want to get into the spreadsheets and talk about, oh, the math. And all the nerds on Money Twitter came at me when I was paying off my paying off my mortgage early. But I have a fun story for you, so stay tuned for that. So this is the outcome, guys. I calculated this offline on my calculator or my Excel to kind of show you guys the extremes of both sides. So in this situation, let's assume that they use this $1,000 to just pay off debt, and then once they're done with the debt, they start to invest, okay? So this is for 10 years. So they save 7 years of debt payoff, right? Because for 3 years, they're in debt for 3 years. But then they have 7 years of debt freedom. So they basically take $1,000 and apply 100% to the debt, and boom, they're paid off in 3 years. Remember, 5.175% interest rate for anybody asking me about the rate. Their investments grow to $107,000. Pretty good. So you're in debt for 3 years and you end up with an investment balance at the end of the 10-year period of $107,000. I used for this, guys, an amortization schedule and a compound interest calculator and my understanding of cash flow, which is right up here, the $1,000. Simple as that. So I know my extreme, assuming it's pretty easy to assume the debt payoff, guys. So assuming the cash flow remains the same at $1,000, there's no really expected 8% return that you have to guess. It's just a 5.175 that's locked in for assuming your debt's like a fixed rate, not variable rate. So this is pretty gonna happen. It's for the most part gonna happen outside of life, like I said, which is a big component of this. But from a math perspective, there's not a ton of assumptions that could go awry. It's pretty much 3 years of debt, 107,000. Behavior is a huge piece of this, like can you stick to the plan, all those kind of things. But this is the reality. The other side, if you invest that money, $1,000, 100% invested, you've obviously saved 0 years from a debt payoff perspective because you're going to stay in debt for 10 years. So you're in debt for 10 years. The difference is obviously that 7 and 7, but you end up with an investment balance of 173 at the end of this 10-year period. That's a difference of $66,000. So now you know if life works out perfectly, the most extreme version of paying off debt versus invest fully would be $66,000 would be your opportunity cost lost. Some people might think that's huge, some people might not, depending on where you are from an income perspective and things of that nature. Also, you have to assume this is 8%. If this is a 5% return, this number drastically changes. We have to recalculate everything. You even might want to do a range, maybe an expected range. Instead of just an assumed 8%, maybe calculate this even with multiple percentages, maybe like 3% to 10%, in fact, because that might give you a good idea of you won't really have a probability of that, but you'll at least know okay, this could be a 30%, let's say $30,000 opportunity cost loss, or it could be 80. But based on 8%, we get to $66,000 lost from an opportunity cost perspective. Remember, opportunity cost is not technically real money that you're losing. It's, hey, I decided to go this route, therefore I sacrificed this amount. But maybe this meant more to me, and I was okay with losing that. Fair assessment, it just depends. That is the extremes of both sides. The other side of this, guys, is the combination approach. And this is where the game gets interesting, because all of the people that say the math, I was ignoring the math, were entirely wrong, because I did a lot of this combination approach and assumptions of everything right here. So the combo approach could be done multiple different ways. You have to split, and I mean split 1,000, not split 500. I meant split 500 to each. That looks pretty bad right there. So let me adjust that, what that says. I split 500 each, but I mean split the $1,000 for both sides. So instead of putting the $1,000 to one or the other, pay off debt or invest, why don't we do pay off debt and invest? And that is a huge opportunity for a lot of people, and it kind of puts you into a middle ground to saying, okay, here's the extreme here and here's the extreme here. Is that 66,000 significant to me or not? Depending on the assumptions, maybe it is, maybe it's not. but let's see if we can get to like this more like, I feel more comfortable in the middle here. So if you do a combination approach, you split the $1,000, 500 towards invest, 500 towards debt. Remember, your investments are taken care of from an investment standpoint, from a retirement standpoint. But again, you might want to build early financial freedom. You might want to leave your job at 35 or 45 or whatever that may be. So if you split this, the reality of this is you save on 5.5 years, and you're in debt for 4.5 years, and your investment total comes to 117. So if you then compare the three models, you can look at it this way, right? This one, I'm in debt for 3 years. This is, I'm in debt for 4.5 years. And this, I'm in debt for 10 years. And then you can look at the investment balance. Okay, so 10 years seems really long. 3 years, you know, I really want to get out of debt, but I really want more than $107,000. Let's try this combo approach where I get 4.5 years. I have $10,000 more, so the opportunity cost loss per se is $56,000, but I only have a 1.5 years more of my debt versus an entire 7 years remaining. You can go as far or as many types of combo approaches as you want, as long as you have these assumptions here and they're ready to go. You could do 900, 100, 800, 200, 750, 250. Whatever approach you want to take that works for you is totally fine with me. There's no right or wrong. In fact, I would do a few of them to see what you're most comfortable with. You'll get a feeling. So that is where it's bigger than math comes into play. It's bigger than math is what my tagline for a reason, because all of the money Twitter nerds would say, you know, you're an idiot for paying off your debt, your mortgage so early. I can't believe you're doing that. First off, let's back it up. We're talking about investing or paying off a mortgage at 28 years old, 29 years old. I think we all won in that situation. None of us are doing anything bad per se. The concern was, what could we be doing better? Like, how can we optimize our dollars? And so I calculated this, and my real life scenario up here came down to me, for those that are new here, some of you guys might know my story. You guys can go check out my pinned post talking about this entire payoff story. We were in a position where Budget Dog had started. I was working my 9 to 5, and my wife was also working a 9 to 5 as well at the time. So we had 3 incomes. We had 0 kids, we had 2 dogs, and we looked at it as an opportunity of a lot of income for a DINK, dual income, no kid family, and what could we optimize and do with that money? And I figured, you know, I'm going to at least invest 20%. So we invested 20% of our gross income. And that alone should make a lot of the people out there even yelling at this conversation, you know, mute. Because 20% of your gross income, there's not many people that are doing that alone. So we were paying 20% of our gross income to investments. So let's just say, round numbers, let's say we made $100,000, we would invest $20,000 of that $100,000. From a gross terms. That's kind of what I mean by that. So 20% of our gross income. On top of that, what we were able to do was take every bit of income over that we could save from a savings rate down there, which we knew from here, the remaining portion, and we would lump sum into the mortgage. When we first ran these calculations, I got to the opportunity cost loss at the age of 50 years old of $43,000, okay? So for me, and my wife, we saw $43,000 more at the age of 50, or debt-free with a paid-for house and more cash to invest at the age of 30 years old, with the realization that life and all these unknowns could happen. And, well, what do you know? They actually did happen. So, job loss, kids, death, confidence goes up. Medical, divorce, recessions, what do I have there? Family, I don't know what I even type. Oh, family pressure, which is a big thing for a lot of breadwinners in homes, is the family pressure to provide and do things like that. So when we looked at the opportunity, we saw $43,000 or paid off mortgage with a lot of less stress at the age of 30. Do I really want to work 20 years to just assume I'm going to get an 8% return, put my money in the market, or pay off my house in like basically 2 years? it was a no-brainer for us because we figured, okay, that's the assumption of 8%. We don't know if that's going to happen. And what money Twitter nerds hate about this situation is the math worked in our favor. So not only did we assess like the math, and we also assessed the emotional component and kind of the judgment call on that, but the math worked in our favor, and here's why. When the market was going up, guys, think about, this was 2020 and 2021. The market was all-time highs right up here, okay? And as it was riding up, euphoria was all over the place. Invest, 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 invest. And we were investing, remember, 20%. But at the very top, we were saying, okay, we're going to put 20% in, but we're going to take out all the extra of the 20% and throw it to our mortgage. Therefore, we're going to lock in a 3% return. And money Twitter nerds kept saying, 10%, you could get 10%. You're getting a 3% return, that's stupid. But remember this, we're dollar cost averaging on the way up. So we're not just throwing a huge lump sum and getting 10% returns. One, that's an assumption, but two, we're dollar cost averaging. So we're putting a little bit here, 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 and we're locking in 3% returns, or what we could have been doing is investing at the very top. So if you really want to go from a timing perspective and timing the market, which we had no intention, I was okay with losing the money, I didn't care because we saw the bigger picture. At the very top, anybody that was investing was making very minimal returns on that invested capital. And then the cliff dive happened in 2022, sorry. We paid off our mortgage August of 2021 on the way up. We locked in this 3%. Everyone else lost money that invested, technically speaking, if you want to play the math game. And at the bottom, we had another $1,500 to invest more than we did before. And this $1,500, ever since August 1st, has been floating into the market every single freaking week or every single month. Every single month, that extra $1,500 that was going to our mortgage is now on the way up, or technically on the way down still, and it's continually dollar cost averaged in. So if you actually look at the math, because of when we went, we locked in a fixed 3% return, which is the kind of, let's just say a treasury yield of some sort. And then at the very, very bottom, we went to, basically for the long-term picture, we're locking in prices down here at the very, very bottom, which is the best time to invest, in fact. And I'm going to show you guys a graphic as to why that is, for those that don't understand. But at the bottom, we were putting an extra $1,500, and on the way up, we're going to see way bigger profit from a math perspective when we become 50, and that's my real life scenario, guys. Not to mention this happened. So for those that didn't follow me, you know what really happened to us? The confidence in my business as a whole went sky high. I didn't need to rely on an income. Like I don't need people's money technically at this point, right? So I built a business to where I was making enough income to where, hey, I don't need to work. I want to help people and I want to get people to the place that they need to be from a financial perspective. And so that confidence of not needing, but wanting to give has 10x my business profits, huge. Nobody talks about the real life stuff. That's a real life thing. If I would have had a mortgage, I also may have never actually left my 9 to 5 because I might not have had the confidence to do so. I might have, I could have, I know from a number perspective I could have, but the confidence is huge. Those are the things that people don't talk about is like, I don't care what the math says. How are you going to react? And I told Jesse on Best Interest, and I remember this specifically as we were paying this off, nobody talks about this piece right here, which is confidence. If you have confidence, you're going to perform 100x better in your job in everyday life, and that really played out real time for me over the last 3 years. And so the confidence aspect was massive. Not to mention, we had this little girl named Logan Lee, kids. So a kid came into the picture, and well, a medical issue came into the picture as well. So all of a sudden, 3 of these things are happening. Oh, boom, a recession is basically here. That's huge. Oh, wait, family pressure is here because now, naturally you're going to feel as if you have to care for the family, especially when you have a kid. All of these real life things are happening, but no one told me on the spreadsheet that medical played a role or recession played a role or kids played a role. They just said, the math says 43% or $66,000. It is what it is. You have to do this. You have to invest 100% of your returns. And until you live life, that's not real life. So if you really think that this math equation is solely what's going to happen, you haven't lived past the age of like 10. And so life is going to happen, and that's often why I say, and I hope I drive some of the point, guys, as to why it is bigger than math by a huge, like a lot. So it is important, guys, back to the topic of paying off debt and investing. It's very important to calculate this out. Do not ignore this. Do not neglect this. But when you really want to have the conversation, Uncommon Yield on Twitter, Money Twitter, he knows that it is bigger than math. And he's in the same situation as me, in fact. He has a kid with medical issues as well. We've talked about it very closely. And we've, in fact, bonded over it. So there's a lot of guys, there's a lot of assumptions on this board that I really do want you to calculate, but I don't want you to forget the circle of it's bigger than math, because these items here will happen to you at some point. I don't care what it is. Somebody's going to lose a job. Somebody's going to have maybe an unplanned kid, or even kids in general. And a kid comes with all sorts of fun facts and fun surprises. Death, confidence more, medical things, divorce might happen, recessions might happen. They are happening. Family pressure. Not to mention, if you have a loss of job, this thing right here no longer becomes a thing. So this whole entire calculation becomes irrelevant because you don't even have the money to have the decision. So being debt-free, guys, has been the biggest blessing in my life. This is not a presentation to push you to pay off debt and not invest or anything like that by any means. Like I said, we paid off debt and invested. That's what we did. Now, everyone's situation is different. You're going to have to look internally and see what your situation is. So I'm going to change this to and or invest. But for us personally, we obviously paid off we did at one point in time pay off $76,000 of non-mortgage debt way back when I was 23 years old. And we did not invest. We actually paused our investing for 1 year because we realized, again, we could knock this debt out in 1 year. And then we went on to pay the mortgage, and I told you guys that story as well. So with that being said, guys, I hope that drives home the point and really shows you the thought process, obviously, into this decision making, but also the bigger reason that me personally, paid off debt, and the bigger assessment that I had outside of the spreadsheet. Because the spreadsheet, guys, it doesn't tell lies, it tells facts of whatever assumptions that you put into this spreadsheet. So that formula is correct, like this is the right formula, but are the assumptions right? And we only know based on historical data, and if we're doing this over a 1, 3, 5 year period, let's be real, this 8% return is probably not going to happen. It's happened 6 times in the last 95 years that an 8% to 12% return actually happened in a given year. You're likely not going to get that return over such a short time period. And even at 10 years, I mean, it's not a guarantee you're going to get 8 to 12%. So, all right, guys, I'm going to flip around the camera and answer questions. I think we went over everything on the board at least. All right. So let me flip this around, and guys, we got the new whole entire thing in, besides obviously this piece right here, and then we got the big white door. So I got my new office in here. It's pretty sweet. Let me flip this around and answer any questions that you guys have. All right, let's see. So I'm gonna go to the top, guys. Feel free to drop them in the comment box. I'm also gonna put below, I'm gonna say, drop a topic for Whiteboard Wednesday next week. So guys, again, every single week we do this at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My goal is to take whatever you guys want to learn about, and I present on a different topic every single week. There's no me deciding or dictating anything. I don't really care what we talk about. I just want to teach you guys a specific lesson, and anything that you guys need help with, I'm going to break down in detail. I'm going to spend my time detailing on the whiteboard as much as possible to help you guys. So I'm going to scroll to the very, very top, guys. I'm going to answer any questions I see come through, and we will go. Echo is just a tad, yeah, guys. I apologize for the echo. We obviously haven't finished this room yet, so we still have to have a rug in here and sound blockers and stuff like that. It's a work in process. Let's see. Sorry, a lot of people joined, so I have to like scroll through everyone that joined as far as people. All right, what percentage of risk-free assets you have in your portfolio? Pretty much none at this point, honestly. Professor Brennan. I don't know if one of my friends asked me if I would be a professor, and I said yes, I would 100% be a professor. Get tenured at a college and teach personal finance, that'd be awesome. Which route did I go? I think I explained most of those routes. We did a combination approach for the most part. At 23 years old, we did just paying off debt because we already had a significant balance saved up at that point in time. And then we realized we were going to be fine long term from our beginning of our career. So we're like, hey, let's just buckle down, pay this debt off in 1 year, and then go on to do investing. And at the time, we didn't think we were going to do the mortgage like we were, but kind of a combination approach after that. All right, I'm scrolling through, guys. Okay, if a debt has a 0% interest, I'm assuming it's better to invest versus pay off. Again, watch the entire presentation because, guys, the rate's important. Like a 0% rate obviously is like, it's 0% is free money, technically speaking, but it's still a liability. And this is the concept people don't understand with 0% financing. You still have a liability. So a lot of times when you have a 0% rate, the lender is going to get paid somehow, or the company that you bought from is going to get paid somehow. There's something in there that they're incentivizing with the 0% rate. It's not just free. So first off, if you go get a 0% car rate, they're probably going to jack your car price up and then build that lost interest per se into the overall purchase price. And as a consumer, most people are like, oh, 0%, sweet, I'm just going to go another $10,000. And they miss the whole point of it. So 0% is not free. You got to be very careful when people say 0%. Assuming you have a good, and usually 0% comes with like consumer debt, to be honest. It's usually not like it's obviously not like a property or like an asset that you actually own that's generating cash flow from that. So typically 0% rates, it's not that they're bad inherently, but I link those typically to consumer debts. And you don't want consumer debt at all. So there's nothing good about consumer debt. Again, back to the bigger the math piece as well. If you have death by a million paper cuts, like that's what little debts all over. If you go to Best Buy and you go to JCPenney and you go to all these different consumer shops, you go to get your car and you have all these 0% rates, but you have like little tiny debts every single place. That's really, really like frustrating, and it's gonna really get to you eventually. Don't get into that situation just because it says 0%. Really think about what you're paying. Don't go finance your phone. Don't go finance your laptop. Pay these things with cash. These things are little tiny consumer items that you should not be financing every single store that you walk into, because they have Afterpay at pretty much every single store at this point in time, or Affirm, sorry. And you can pay like, I was joking the other day on Twitter, on Instagram, that when we finished this entire room, I said I got financing for like 765 months at $3. Like, just pay the cash. Make your life a lot easier. With this investing example, is this within a traditional IRA? If so, can pool. So it was just a general assumption. It could be any investment account. Nothing in particular. Can you pull the money out in after 10 years? So with IRAs, guys, there are exceptions. There's like 6 exceptions. One of the big ones a lot of people use is for a first-time home down payment. So some people pull that money early. I made the mistake of doing it. I don't recommend this, but I did it myself when we were getting this house originally. So when we bought this house at 23 years old, we did not have money at all. So we took the cash out of our, I think it was my wife's IRA. I pulled a good one there. What's that? 401k, sorry. And we took $10,000 or whatever the down payment was. We pulled it from that account, which was a total exception. So we did not pay any any penalty on that money. And we were able to use it. I think it was a Roth 401k at the time. So I don't think we paid taxes. We might have, I don't remember. But there's a few exceptions. You can look those up. Better every week. Maybe you can wear headphones to help the sound better. You sound like, yeah, appreciate you, Justin. I at this point in time, guys, I'm doing my best with what I have. I'm going to try to get the sound better in here. This was super helpful. I may be getting a new job, and I wasn't sure if I should solely focus on debt or take employee match. I'm going to do both. Excellent, Chelsea. And guys, I have a YouTube video on this exact topic, so if you can watch the replay of this, obviously. But I have a YouTube video with my actual templates that I use to calculate this stuff, because I used my templates today versus just guessing on the whiteboard. Like, I didn't do that on the whiteboard. Very helpful. Thanks, man. Appreciate you, man. Do I hold any crypto? Yes, I hold about 2.5% of crypto in my portfolio. I don't even know where to start. It's okay. You're here. Marcy, it does not matter. If you guys don't know where to start, check out my recent post today. I just posted an about me, a 60-second about me, where I was a gap model at the age of 7. Just kidding. But go check out that post. I talk about how I help people with financial freedom all the time. I have a Budget Dog Academy. Guys, we're about to hit 100 members in Budget Dog Academy. If you guys aren't in Budget Dog Academy, you're missing out. I can tell you that right now. Anybody that's in Budget Dog Academy in this live, I comment below your guys' experience. Let the students talk. I'm not going to talk for them. So, guys, Budget Dog Academy has been an absolute hit. Like literally the other day, check this out. $12,000 extra per year that somebody's saving within the academy, literally by just walking through the process I teach. But that's not even what I've been seeing, guys. $23,000 extra dollars that people are saving in this academy. Let's see what else. What other numbers do we have? I'm just gonna go with the most recent. I don't even need to cherry pick here, guys. I literally just need to go with the most recent screenshots I saved. Okay, here is another 61,000 extra freaking dollars because you walk through the basics of finances and foundation. Guys, this stuff is not complicated. It's not. I simplify, I put it in layman's terms. What I do right here is what I do every single day in Budget Dog Academy, but you have your unique personal financial plan that is indestructible. If you guys need help, absolutely reach out to me for a DM. You will not find this link anywhere because I want to eliminate the people that aren't serious because they won't DM me. The people that are serious will come to my DMs and they'll get the help they need, and you will see a lot of success. As long as you show up, that's the only requirement I have. I have all the tools and resources. Is S Corp always better option than Schedule C? So when you say Schedule C, I think you're referring to really like a single member LLC. They, technically speaking, they both roll up into your personal. So Schedule C is obviously onto your 1040 as a attached form. Your S Corp, I'm an S Corp personally. Typically S Corp is a better option. And generally, there's a lot of different things based on each state and stuff like that. But in general, if you're making over like $50,000 on a net profits basis, S Corp makes a little more sense because you can then take distributions in salary versus a full salary on Schedule C. And that's going to reduce your tax burden pretty significantly. I save 5 figures in taxes when I switch from a single member LLC to an S Corp. All you have to do is elect 2253 tax form as S Corp status, and you're work with a good CPA, and you'll be set up to transfer that into basically. You had to learn a lot about this process, but like you had to pay your own taxes because it's a pass-through entity and all that kind of stuff. But typically S Corp, guys, is a lot better. Most single entrepreneurs are S Corps. The mortgage recast, I actually don't know. I don't want to speak on that. I haven't really fully learned that piece of it, to be honest. I kind of know a little bit. I don't want to speak out of terms. I only speak on things, guys, I know. Would you guys pay off investment properties or let mortgage ride? We'd probably let it ride, to be honest, with a mortgage or with a rental property. We would probably have a time frame in mind. We probably wouldn't let it ride for 30 years. I wouldn't let it ride past 60. I'm 30 now, so if I got a 30-year property, maybe I'd probably push it to like 50 or 55 personally. And I would use the profits from the cash flow from the that I received from the property on top of all the other deductions I'm getting in capital appreciation and all the depreciation and stuff like that. And I would probably just basically a dividend payment back into the mortgage capital. So are your parents proud of you venturing out on your own, or do they wish you had stayed in a major accounting firm? At first, I think they were a little skeptical, I'll be honest. I think my parents believed in me, they had trust in me, but as parents, you want to protect your kids, and I think they thought it was probably a little risky. My dad has entrepreneurship background in the sense he started his own firm years ago. Basically he went back to the corporate life and stuff like that. So I think there was some hesitation, but I think now at this point in time, when they understand where what we're doing, the financial impact of it and all that kind of stuff, I think they're really proud of me at this point in time. But if you're struggling with that, guys, if anybody's struggling with doing something they want to do because their parents or their friends or their teachers are saying, don't do that, go the traditional route, just calculate everything out, guys. It's everything I've always done. Is I'm very calculated with all my decisions. There has to be some risk involved. I could fall flat on my face, but at least calculate your decisions as much as possible. Make an educated guess. I'm a CPA, so I can always go back to my CPA field and get a good job. So with the Deloitte background, my board background, and everything I've done so far, especially starting your own business, I think a lot of firms would see that as a plus versus, hey, you failed type deal. So I'm taking a chance. It's worked out great. Ever since I left my job, guys, I've done tremendous things from a revenue perspective, but also a time perspective and really enjoying life. The revenue's done its thing. It's done tremendous. It's been a blessing. Let's just say that. But the bigger impact of my business is, one, I can impact you guys every day. That brings joy to myself. Number two, I get to spend time with my family, and this is no in particular order, but I'm with my daughter every single day. And number three is I get to control my time selfishly at the end of the day. So I get to decide when I go to the gym. Do I want to go at 6 a.m., 5 a.m., or do I want to go at 3 p.m.? It doesn't really matter. You get to decide that. So take the chance on yourself. If you do it smart, you calculate things out, and you're good at what you do, and you're the ability to work. And that's another really key component is don't have the expectation that you're going to go become an entrepreneur just to kind of YOLO your life and live on the beach and kind of hang out. I work my ass off every single day. So it does not come easy. It comes with a lot of different types of headaches, if that makes sense. But it's worth every single time and penny. But you have to be passionate about what you do. And I was giving a company presentation today for a company in Cincinnati, and one of the things they said on the phone was that presentation was awesome because we felt your excitement within what you presented. And so when you like what you do, when you love what you do, you're going to project an aura amongst everybody that you love it and you're authentic and real, and that's going to take you a lot further than hey, I want to make an extra $10,000 per month and live passively and say F the system. That's not what I'm after. So that's a really important concept to understand. What percentage down did I put in my first house? 3.5%. When I'm not watching your content, is there a YouTube channel that has helped you along the way? I have a YouTube channel, so you can check that out, but I don't really watch YouTube like that, to be honest. I usually just listen to music on YouTube. I do listen to Alex Hormozy quite a bit. His podcast, which is on YouTube sometimes. I was listening to a Grant Cardone and Patrick David Bett YouTube video, which is basically a podcast recently. How do I get a one-on-one with you? Guys, DM me for the one-on-ones. You guys can send me a DM personally. I only work with, at this point in time, people that are really serious because I put, as you can tell, a lot of effort and I care about my results and my clients. When I used to price it really cheap in the very, very beginning of my business, which made sense, I would get people that wouldn't show up to calls. They wouldn't really care about results, and that really drained me. That took my energy from here to here. I get results, and I guarantee I'll get results for you because I worked with too many people at this point in time, and I know what I can do. I'm very confident very confident yet humble about it. I will get you results, but you have to care. And so I've raised my prices because that brings better clients. That's the reality of it. A good topic would be pay off rental properties or continue purchasing more rental properties. I'm not a real estate guy. So I think that a lot of that would come down to I don't want to speak on something I can explain it. I could bring experts on, but that's another thing I do, guys, is within the academy is I don't speak, I'm not an expert in everything, by any means. Trust me, my wife tells me all the time. So if I don't know something, I'm not going to act like I know it. I know I can get you to become debt free. I know I can help you with investments. I know I can help you set up investing long term. I know I can help you become financially free. Could I help you with a rental property? Probably not. I don't have a rental property. But I built $1 million net worth by the age of 30. So I know I can do that. I don't think I can do that. Well, I know I can't do that because I haven't done it. I only talk about things and do things that I've actually done myself. So I hope you can respect that. But within Budget Dog Academy, I am finding people all the time that do know those types of things. So all my students, guys, they'll tell me, hey, I want an Airbnb guy. I want Tom Frugal Gay on Twitter the other day presented to my group. He retired by 39. He was an eBay flipper with bras and makeup and all that kind of stuff. And he also did real estate properties while he was working at a movie theater, and he retired at 39 years old. I bring these experts on into my Budget Dog Academy every single week. So we have a lot of experts in there that talk on different topics, but I know what I'm good at, and that's what I stick to. And I don't want to speak out of terms. Is it true that there are no income limits to invest in a Roth IRA if investing through an employer? Roth IRA is outside of an employer, and then a 401k is what you're referring to. And yes, correct. There is no income limits for a 401k in particular. Starting where to allocate funds is hard with competing priorities, investing, paying off mortgage, kids' college funds. That's another thing, Love Mel's. That's a very common thing I get within the academy is like, hey guy, like they'll ask me like, I don't know where to put my money. I want to hit all my goals, and I'll quickly do an exercise like this in a sense. What much more detail, and I'll say, hey, you told me you want to hit this goal, this goal, this goal, this goal. These are the ways you got to twist your money around to make those goals work, and it works as long as you stick to the plan. I can do the math. I can't hold your hand and I'll do everything I can to make it work. But at the end of the day, like you have to make those decisions, and like you have to say no, and you have to do the hard work part of it. But I can map you out a plan pretty simply. All right, guys. Brother Thrones and Gems. Appreciate you, man. Any advice for a 19-year-old? Fail as many times as you can trying what you love to do. I'll keep it at that. I did not do that when I was 19. I was so focused on getting my CPA because my parents wanted me to, and I was going to school. Not that CPA was a bad job or like I was like screw college or anything like that, but I never took a second because I was too busy partying to say, do I really want to do what I'm doing? And the answer was no, which is obviously at 27 years old when I kind of figured that out. So do as much as you possibly can, fail as much as you can, and just take chances on yourself because at 20 years old, nobody expects anything of you. And you have a chance to do that. Do I have a one-on-one? Yeah, Roberto, I have a one-on-one, man. Just go ahead and send me a DM and we'll get started. If you currently had debt, would you pause investing to pay it off quickly or take a combo approach given the great opportunity in the market? Good question, Lindsay. It's hard to say without actually mentally being there at this point in time. Like I've been debt free for a solid year and a half almost from my mortgage. So I'm very focused. So like once I hit that goal, I throw it to the side and move on to the next thing. So like I'm not mentally there right now to really give an honest assessment of what I would probably do. It does look attractive. The opportunity in the market, guys, is grand. And right now I'm going to tell you this. I'll show you two stats that are going to blow your mind. You can't see this. Basically, the best returns ever were in the Great Depression and 2009 to 2012 when everybody was running amok and everyone was losing their minds. So remember that when it comes to right now. Another really good stat, 20 of the worst trading days from 1980 to 2021, 11 of these days occurred in a positive return. Hence, when I was saying going up in the market, like why I won in the market on my mortgage payoff because of this. On the flip side, the 20 best trading days of the market happened during a negative downturn, which is right now. So there's opportunity, guys, all over. You have to be investing and you have to be paying off your debt. I think it's going to get a lot worse here soon. I've talked about it. I've had my recession-proof webinar recently. I'm going to have another one for anybody that missed it here shortly. But guys, you guys got to take care of this debt ASAP because it might get ugly and there might be a lot of job loss. Like right here, job loss. This stuff's going to happen. Real life's going to happen. It's going to be bigger than math, and people are going to get smacked. At the same time, if you are in a good position, invest a lot of money. Do not run away from the market. You are going to smile from ear to ear in 2030 looking back. 2022 is going to be an absolute massive, massive year. So take advantage of it, guys. All right, important questions. Do you help with dishes? Wait, this is actually a serious one. Do I help wash dishes and vacuum the house? Oh, like yes, I do that all the time. Whiskey or beer or both. I will always go with whiskey or really bourbon versus beer, but I'll do both. I'm pretty casual. I don't drink a lot, but when I drink, I'll have like 1792. What do I have over there right now, Aaron? Woodford Reserve is over there right now on my bourbon bar type of mini bar thing. But I don't drink a ton. I just drink kind of casually here and there. But I'll drink whatever. I'm not too picky. What was the eBay flipper's name? The Frugal Gay, and I think 14. I don't know. Or it's just Frugal Gay. I don't know if it's the or Frugal. But just DM me. I'll give you the actual one. So would you say extra money towards investing or to buy real estate? That's a good question. So this was obviously to pay off debt or just invest. So if you're looking for an opportunity for like an alternative than like just standard traditional debt, which is like maybe alternative assets like cryptocurrency or even like real estate in this situation, I think like both could make a lot of sense. Again, you'd have to run the math of both situations. So it's always a math equation to begin with, guys. And then you have to bring in the it's bigger than math piece right here, which really accounts for real life. Do you want to deal with toilets and tenants? That's a legitimate question outside of the math that you want to deal with. Repairs and things of that nature, like, I don't want to deal with that personally. So, but do the math. Just calculate both sides out and you'll really get a good idea of what makes more sense for your situation. Benefits of Roth versus traditional IRA versus 401k. I'm not dodging the question. I have an entire Whiteboard Wednesday on this exact topic. So I don't want to spoil that. Go check out Whiteboard Wednesday, guys, on my reels. And it explains Roth versus traditional IRAs, 401ks, and all that kind of stuff. We have like 6 or 7 episodes, guys, at this point in Whiteboard Wednesday. Again, every single Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, mark your calendars and DM me different topics that you guys want to talk about. And I'll put something together for you guys. Let's see. A couple more questions, guys. I'm going to hop off here at 9 or so. Is it more about steady progress versus having an exact dollar amount for your future goal? Or is it important to find the exact number in mind for your opinion? I think both. I think you need to know your number. You need to know your financial independence number. You need to know your retirement number. You need to know what your goal target is. But if you look back at your situation, you're like, I can't get to 2.5 million on my current income. Don't beat yourself up about it. Continue the process. Continue investing. Continue, maximizing your muscle and really doing the same thing over and over and over. And then find ways to continue to invest and make more money, because eventually you'll get to the point that you will have enough money to hit your goals because you've been so focused on that big goal. But don't beat yourself up if you're not there right now. Focus on making steady progress and getting better every single day. So at some point in time, you're going to hit that mark. It's just not exactly straight up. It might be a tiered approach. It might be, in the beginning of your career, you're going like this and you're kind of like that. And all of a sudden it's like that. That happened to me with my situation. Is like when we were paying off our debt, guys, the original plan was 15 years. 15 years of debt. We paid it off in 5 because we were intentional and because we started that process no matter what. We mapped everything out, and every single night, every single weekend, my wife and I would sit there and think, how can we make an extra $250? How can we do this? How can we do that and make extra money? And we did it. We made things happen. And a lot of people think it's luxurious. This is the reality of what I did. I went to those doorsteps right there, guys, was my first Budget Dog post. So when we were getting out of debt, I was demoing this church with a hard hat on, making an extra $12 an hour, literally $12 an hour with taxes. Okay, so everyone's like, yeah, you're making so much money, blah, 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 blah. It's so easy for you. No, I was with a hard hat right here after my CPA job, as I was studying for my test. And on top of that, I was posting content from Budget Dog at lunchtime and telling all my workers to go like my post. So that's the reality of how we ended up paying off the debt. Is it did not come easy, and it was not just like, oh, I was born with all this money. My parents gave me all this money. No, because I had $304,000 of debt. My parents didn't give me a nickel. So they provided a great life, but I did not have any dollars to my name from them at the age of 18 years old, really 16. So I made this happen. I decided to make this happen, and you can too. That's the coolest thing about it, is it's a decision. But a lot of people can't get past that self-limiting belief and thinking, this guy's on Instagram, he makes more money, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to hang up and exit out of this call, and I can't do it. I can't do it. That's the reality. That's the thought a lot of people have. It's sad, but it's true. And a lot of people need to find ways to break that barrier, because once you get through the initial barrier, the rest is history. You'll do what you want to do. I promise you that. It's just a matter of time. Am I still DCAing in the market? Yeah, 100%, man. Every single day, guy, or every single, my automatic schedule, nothing has changed. Same exact process when I was in 2020 and 2021 and 2022. In fact, my contributions have went significantly up, not because I'm not DCAing, but just because the income has gone up. But my process and my strategy has remained intact, 100%. People are jumping all over the place, and that's to be expected during this market. 10 years from now, I will be the winner from the process I'm taking all my students through, and all my students will be the winners, and all my clients will be the winners, because you're walking through the process that actually works with factual statistical data. We're not going to rely on all the money Twitter folks out there that are buying and selling at different times and trying to time the market. It doesn't work. As smart as they are, as smart as other people are, it does not matter. Should you roll over your 401k during a bear market? It depend. Rolling it over, it doesn't matter. If you just roll it from like a 401k to a rollover, like there's no taxable impact. But yes, I think the premise holds true, is like, if the market is down, your values are down. And if you roll that over and convert it to like a Roth feature, you'll pay taxes. And this is an excellent opportunity to do so. So if you guys have a low balance in a rollover IRA, maybe now is the time to transfer or convert that to Roth. But you have to consider other impacts as well. Like, for example, if this year your spouse works and next year they don't, and your income's going to drastically reduce or change, you might want to consider that as well. So you have to kind of think about all of these types of things and work with a good CPA. Don't just make this decision based on that answer. Do I think 401k will lose their value in the next few months? I don't know what your 401k holds. Everyone's 401k is entirely different. You have to select investments within your account. So your 401k is irrelevant. Will your investments within your 401k decline? That's a you question. I don't know what you have in your account. So I highly recommend, based on that question, with all due respect, to go watch my 401k and IRA Whiteboard Wednesday to understand the fundamentals behind that question and why I can't answer that question. Thoughts on Fed's easy money policy being over in the related market returns? Honestly, man, your guess is as good as mine. I wish I had a good answer for that, but the Fed are going to be the Fed, and they're going to do crazy stuff. Tommy, yes, I like VT Wax, but I like VTI and VXUS as a better duo. Appreciate your time. It's worth money. Yeah, appreciate you guys. I enjoy doing this. I'm trying to put as much as we can now. Perfect time, Kelsey. Keep rolling. Keep rolling, guys. Keep putting as much as you can, while also maintaining emergency funds and preparing. Because I had a student, guys, that lost his job at Peloton 8 months ago, and I talked about this in my webinar. So if you guys have been in my webinars, this is an update from the webinar. 8 months ago, he was at Peloton. Lost his job, but he took my course and he was prepared very, very well. Financial planning, set up, and everything. He landed a job at Rivian, and he was without a job for 8 months, but he totally weathered the storm because he did the basics that I talk about. They don't sound sexy, they don't sound fun, and they don't sound exciting, but I can promise you right now, the people that take this stuff serious and really put this foundation underneath them are going to 100x their wealth 10, 20 years from now. While the people that are chasing quick gains are going to continue to chase quick gains their entire life. I can guarantee that. Because that's human nature in a nutshell. So if you really want to build real wealth, you guys can. It's just up to you. You do the stuff that works, the fundamental stuff that lasts for a long time. If I put a bunch of work into my business is likely to last a long time. if I post a few pictures and go off into the beach and never post again, you guys will forget who I am. And so everything that's worth something, a championship in NBA or a World Series in baseball currently kind of going on, a Super Bowl in football, none of those people just showed up. First off, they're in the NFL and they're professional sports players. They put work in that none of us saw. They did it under the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg that everyone sees of Tom Brady holding up the Lombardi. That dude's a psycho. Like, you have to be different to win big. And that's just the reality. Is the opportunity cost really $66,000 if you can't pull that amount out in full cash? Yeah. So in that situation, if depending on the account, right? So yes, if you put into a taxable brokerage, you would pay capital gains depending on the time frame. And that time frame was over a year, so you pay 15% likely, and it would be based on your gains as well. So there's some sort of component there to where it's within like the net impact, which is correct. Like, you also want to calculate technically the net impact of that. You could also factor in inflation. You could factor in taxes. That it's important. You could do that to get real precise, but at the end of the day, this kind of gives you the high level picture of what you're trying to get after. Thoughts on where the housing market's going. Based on my inside knowledge of who I've been talking to, it sounds as if there's some price reductions in a lot of different areas, but at the same time, I think that the headlines are signaling a different reaction than the actual market as is. Rates are up, obviously, and I think there's a little bit of reality shock to a lot of people trying to get houses and stuff like that. I think some builders are probably trying to find some buyers to an extent, probably offering some incentives in different areas. But at the end of the day, I think if you find the right numbers in the right housing market, whether that be the stock market or housing market or whatever market in general, you're going to be okay long term. Any tips for nomad jobs? Not entirely sure, man. There's so much opportunity. That's an endless conversation. There's so much opportunity online. And even a professional, like as me, like CPA, like I could be virtual at a Big Four firm at this point in time. So technically speaking, it's nomad. A lot of people when I was at Deloitte were working in like Florida, California, but they were in the Cincinnati office. So nomad jobs are just, I think they're here to stay. Well, they are here to stay. So 403B or 450. All right, this is the last question that I'm going to answer, guys. 403B or 457 for retirement. I would go with the one that matches first and then also better investment options. The 457, the cool thing about that is you can pull it before retirement without that penalty component to it. So that's a little different than like a 401k. But at the end of the day, you could even use both. It just kind of depends. Everyone's situation is different. That's why I always assess my students and my clients' situations and figure out, here are all of our options. What makes most sense for your situation? It's very, very unique to each individual. It's really hard to say a generalized, but if you have the two options of these, whatever kind of matches and has better options. Filter for remote jobs on Indeed. Yep. Should I panic sell everything in my portfolio? No. Unless it's like, oh, he says kidding. Unless it's like GameStop stock, then just sell because it's a crap stock. But anyways, guys, thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, every single Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to do Whiteboard Wednesday and knock out a topic. I have no planned topics for next Wednesday, so send me a DM if you guys want me to hit a topic that you guys want me to cover, and I will cover them. And I will talk to you guys soon.